In this video, we are going to see about basic network configurations in F5, and we are going to understand how to establish an end-to-end connectivity by performing sample, performing a simple network configurations like creating a VLAN and the self IP addresses, etc. So this is our lab architecture. We are going to use this architecture throughout this course for all the lab sessions. Maybe there may be small changes when we are practicing high availability and other steps, but this is the sample architecture. Okay, for we are going to use this architecture for most of our lab through this course. Okay, in our earlier video, we have seen from where we need to download the F5 image and how to deploy it in the virtual machine. And we have seen about the license activation and resource provisioning, everything. And also we have seen how to convert a Windows 7 machine into a web server. And but we have not established the connectivity between the user to F5 and F5 to the backend server. Okay, so in this session, by doing some basic network configurations in the F5, let's establish an end-to-end connectivity from user to F5 and from F5 to the backend server. So when I say basic network configurations, we are going to create two different VLAN. One VLAN is for this external network. I consider this network as this part as an external network, which is user facing. Okay, and I'll consider this network, this actual servers which is sitting in the data center behind the F5 as an internal network. Okay, so I'm considering this uh, two different network as a two different VLAN. This external as an external VLAN and this is an internal VLAN. Okay, and for an external VLAN or external network, I'm using the subnet 172.16.0.0/24, and for an internal network where the actual web server was placed, I'm using subnet 10.10.10.0/24. Okay, and one more important thing when you're trying to deploy your lab in a virtual machine, it's very important to understand the VMnet, because if we are doing any mistakes in the VMnet, then we may not able to establish the connectivity. Okay, so it's very important to have the right configuration, right VMnet configurations in the virtual machine settings, which VMware settings. Okay, I'll show you how to configure it and how to map the right VMnet to the network. Okay, so for this setup, as I said earlier, for the external network, I'm using VMnet 8. Okay, VMnet is nothing but a kind of a virtual interface. Okay, and within the VMware. And for this internal network, I'm using VMnet 1, and VMnet 0 by default it's an bridged. Okay, I'm using, this is the actual PC where this VM is running, and this all these applications are running within the VM in this PC. Okay, and I'm using this PC for the management of this application. By default, it's bridged using VMnet 0. Okay, that's good. And these are the main three steps we need to follow when we are doing the network configuration. And this first step is applicable only when we are trying to deploy the FI in the VM network. Okay, if in case you have an FI hardware, or if you are trying to establish an FI network, FI infrastructure using a physical box, a physical hardware, then you may not need to consider about this. You don't need these points. You can directly create a VLAN, access the device. You can create a VLAN and you can create the self IP address. But when we are deploying that in the VMware, we need to consider about this point, because it's very important. Okay, the thing is, we need to map the right VMnet to the right MAC address, having in the right interface. Means we need to map the right VMnet to the right interface. Okay, and the second one, we need to create a layer 2 VLAN. As we said earlier, in our topology, we're going to create two different VLAN, internal and external, and we need to create a self IP address. Self IP address is nothing. It's similar to the SVA we are creating in a network. Okay, it's a layer 3 kind of a VLAN. That's it. We can create an IP address to that VLAN, I would say. Let me show you how to configure it and how to establish end-to-end connectivity from our lab. Okay, so this is my lab. This is my VMware. I am using this LTM box. This is live now, and I have three web servers, which is a backend servers behind this FI. Okay, and I have one client machine. all are Windows 7 machine. Actually, this is also Windows 7 machine. These three is also Windows 7 machine, but I have converted this as a web server. I'm considering it's a web server. Okay, I'll show you how to configure it. I think the session got stuck. Let me initiate it. Okay, now let's see. Yep, I'm logging into the GUI of F5. So this is the dashboard. As we have also discussed about this earlier in our earlier videos. So in the left side there will be an option for network. All the network configurations should be taken care from here. Okay. So as we said, the first foremost thing is we need to make a note, or we need to map the right VMnet, I said, right? And before that, let me show you one thing. It's very interesting. So we said, right, we need to create the right VMnet. So this is the place where we need to create a VMnet from your VMware. Go to edit, and from here go to virtual network editor. So once you open it, you'll be seeing this informations. As I already created this, you're seeing this informations. If in case you don't see this, or by default, you'll be seeing some couple of VMnets virtual interface. Okay. If you require, you can create a new VMnet by using this option change settings. Okay, you can go to here. It will ask for admin access. So once you approve it, it will open like this. You can go to add network. It will show all the list of VMnets available. You can click anything. As I already VMnet 1 is available, it's showing us VMnet 2. Okay, you can create. You can click OK to create it. Then from here you can mention what are the subnets you're going to. You can specify the subnets you're going to use within this virtual net interface. Okay, you can whatever subnet we can give, and if you want it to be a DHCP service, then you can enable it. But in my case, I don't want to have this as a DHCP, so I have not enabled a DHCP here. I want to use a static. So it depends on you how you want to establish it. Okay, so this is how you can create a new VMnet here, but currently I don't need it because already I have it. So VMnet 0, it's an auto bridging. Okay, it's auto bridge. When I say auto bridging, it's getting it is your modem network. Okay, and VMnet 1 I have created. VMnet 1 is the network I'm going to use for the internal network. When I say internal network, for the servers, the backend servers network. So I have specified the subnet as like 10.10.10.0/24 here, and I want this to be in the host only mode. Okay, and for other I have created another VMnet as like VMnet 8, and I want this to be a NAT specific. Okay, I want this to do the NAT because it's from the external users traffic. So I have clicked in NAT, and the external I want this external network to be in the series of 172.16.00/24. So I have given this and I have clicked OK. So once you click OK, your VMnet will be created here. So this is how you need to create a VMnet in common for your VMware. So once you have created it, you need to map the right VMnet to the F5 to the right interface. So for that, you need to go here, right click, go to settings. So in settings, you'll be seeing a number of network adapters. So these are the interfaces that is actually working in your F5. So I can show you here. So you need to map the right VMnet here based on your IP address, sorry, based on the MAC address of the interface. So let me show you how to find out it. First, what you need to do, you need to go to the interface. This is very important because if we made mistake here, then we may not we may not able to set up the lab. Okay, we may not able to establish the end-to-end connectivity. It's very difficult. So open a notepad. I'll make a note as like for internal network or internal VLAN, for internal VLAN or for internal VLAN I would say. Okay, I want to use the interface 1.1. Okay, which means that I'm saying that internet 1.1 is the interface where my backend servers should connect. Okay, so what is the MAC address? Here you can see the MAC address for this interface. I'm copying that MAC address and pasting here. Okay, and as per my network diagram, if you see, as per my network diagram, vmnet 1, okay, vmnet 1 is the network where my actual backend server is connected. Okay, and it is from 10.10.10.0/24, and vmnet 8 is 172.16.0.0/24. Okay, so I want this to be connected in vmnet 1 with 10.10.10.0/24. And for external VLAN, when I say external VLAN, for the traffic coming from user to the Fi. Okay, I want this to connected at this interface 1.2, 1.2, and the MAC address is this one. And I want this, okay, settings. My settings was changed. VMnet 1. Okay, my settings was changed 10.10.10.0/24. Okay, here, okay, let it be in VMnet 8 as per my design, and it should comes in the subnet 172.16.0.0/24. Okay, so first I need to make a note on my interface along with its MAC address. I need, because I'm planning for it. I'm going to map the internet. I'm going to create a internet, a separate VLAN for an internal network and separate VLAN for an external network, and I'm going to map that VLAN to a particular interface, and where my backend server is going to connect it. And I also need to, from the VMware end, I need to make sure that the right VMnet is connected, because if in case, say for example, vmnet 8 is mapped to this interface, then we may not it may not work as per the design, because if we map vmnet 8 to this interface, by default the subnet which we specified for vmnet 8 is 172.16.0.0/24, right? So we may not establish the communication. So that's the reason, before configuring it, we need to make a note of it, and we need to proceed further accordingly. Okay, fine. Then I need to go to VMware. So by default, this is a bridged mode. If you see, the first one will be a bridged mode. It's for a management purpose. Okay, so you no need to make any changes. Or else, if you want to make a changes, we can create VMnet 0, and already VMnet 0 will be available anyway. You know, no need to make any changes. But still, if we don't want to work as like a bridge, we can specify the subnet which is used in your modem, and you can, which is used for the management, and you can use that. But it is always suggested to go with the bridged here for the management network. And here, if I go, if I click this network adapter 2 and go to advanced, here the MAC address of this interface will be available. Okay, let me check what is the MAC address for the interface 1.1, which I take from here. So the MAC address for the interface 1.1 ends with 48B6, right? 48B6. Let me go here and see. It is 4. Okay, it's not the same. 48B6. 48B6 or 4DB6. Okay, it's 4DB6. See, it's 4784DB6. It's the MAC address for the interface 1.1. And if you go here, it is the same, 784DB6. So this is what interface 1.1 used in the our FI. Okay, so we need to give the right VMnet. So as per the design, this for this interface we need to tag VMnet1. Okay, so I have already done it. I'm just showing it how to do it. So if you see that, I have already done it. And if you want to change it, you can go here and you can change things. But for this particular interface, I want that to be in VMnet1. So I'm selecting VMnet1 and you can click OK. And if you go to the second interface, which is 1.2, the MAC address ends with 4DC0. Okay, I'm going here. I'm clicking this network adapter, going to advanced. If you see 4DC0, okay, it's nothing but your interface 1.2 in your F5. And here I'm clicking this custom specific virtual net, and I'm selecting VMnet 8. And you can, once you select it, you can click OK. It will be saved. As like the same here also in your end device under web server, you need to make sure you have tagged the right VMnet. So I'm just right clicking the client, going to settings, and under settings I'm going to network adapter. If you see, it has VMnet 8. I have already done it. If in case you're seeing a different VMnet here, make sure that you tag the right VMnet, because as per my network diagram and network architecture, this is an VMnet 8. Okay, and if you see here for the web servers, see it's in VMnet 1. VMnet 1 is nothing but 10.10.10 10.10.10.0/24 network. I have already mapped it so that we're having VMnet 1. By default, it will be in bridged mode. It would be like this. So what you need to do, you need to select here, you need to select the right VMnet and click OK. So once you have done it, the first part is over. So now the first part is over. We have mapped the right VMnet to the right interface of F5. So the next part is we need to create VLANs. So if you see, it's in uninitialized the state. The state is uninitialized. Okay, the interfaces. So go to VLAN under network and go to create. Here you need to create the new VLAN. It's a layer 2 VLAN. We can give any name. First I want to create a VLAN for internal network, and I want to create a VLAN for the external network, right? So I'm giving the name as internal for internal VLAN. Okay, internal, and I don't want to use any tag, and I want to map that internal VLAN to interface 1.1. Okay, so 1.1, and I'm selecting untagged, adding it, finished. That's it. Okay, again I'm going to create, I'll show you again. This is under the VLAN option. Under network there is an option for VLAN. You click here. So once you click here, you'll be seeing this option. Go to create. So I'm creating a new VLAN for the external network. So in the name of external, you can have whatever name for you, and I want to map that to 1.2 interface. It's an untagged. Okay, so I have created two different VLANs. One is for internal network, which is actually used for the backend servers behind the FI in data center, and the other one is for external network. External VLAN is created for external network for the user traffic. Okay, user network. And once I have created a VLAN, if you go and see in the interface, if you see now the state, it's changed to up. Earlier it was uninitialized. So once we created a VLAN and mapped the right interface, it's up. The state is up, right? So now I'm going to create a self IP. As I said earlier, self IP is a kind of a layer 3 IP. We are going to create an IP address for that network. Okay. So I'm going to create an IP address, internal IP. I'm going to create an IP address for the internal network, which I created earlier, right? I created an internal VLAN. So here I'm going to create an IP address for that network. So that for my convenience, I named it as internal IP. And as the internal VLAN comes under VMnet1, which is 10.10.10.0/24, I want to give any IP address in this range. Okay, so that all my servers, in the backend servers behind my F5 will be using this address as their um, default gateway. Okay, so I'm using 10.10.10.100 as the self IP for the internal VLAN, and all my servers will be using this as the default gateway. So once I give the IP information, I need to select the right VLAN. So whatever VLAN you have created, that information will be available here. You need to click the right, you need to select the right VLAN here. So I'm creating this IP address for the VLAN internal. Okay, and port lockdown, if you see, we have a multiple options here: port allow default, allow all, allow none, allow customs, and so on. So by default it will be in allow none, which will never allow, which will not allow any traffic. I want to keep it in allow default. When I say allow default, by default Fi will allow few communications of using few ports. I'll show you in the next upcoming sessions. I'll show you in detail what are the ports allowed in default. Okay, and if you select allow all, it will allow all the traffic. Okay, so allow default will allow only communication using some specific ports, important ports. And I'm creating other self IP for the other VLAN external we have created. Let it be external IP. So here in the IP, I need to give 172.16.0.100. Okay, 255.255.255.0. And external IP is I'm creating an IP for the VLAN external, which is already tagged, which is already mapped to the VMnet 8. Okay, the subnet we specified for VMnet 8 is 172.16.0.0/24. So I'm taking one IP from that subnet and I'm configuring here. Okay, in VLAN I'm selecting external because this self IP is for the external VLAN. And port lockdown, allow default, finish. So now what we have did, we have mapped the right VMnet to the right interface in Fi, and we have created VLANs, two different VLANs. One is external and one is internal, and we have created a self IPs for this VLAN. Okay, and I have already configured this IPs. So I'm going to this client now because server end configuration is over, network configuration is over. So now what I'm going to do, I want to show you, though I have already configured here. I want to show you, if you see that I have statically assigned IP address 172.16.0.10 to this particular client. Okay, and if you see the default gateway for this client, it is 172.16.0.100, which is your self IP we have created now for the external VLAN, right? Okay, and for the web server, also, already we have created an IP 10.10.10.10 for this server, and 10.10.10.20 for this server, and 10.10.10.30 for this server. And I have configured the default gateway as the self IP address, which is we configured in the F5. Okay, it's very important. And as I said earlier, it's very important to map the right VMnet to the devices. Here it should be VMnet 1. If you see, it should be VMnet 1 because servers, all the servers and the internal VLAN devices, it's under VMnet 1, and VMnet 1 subnet is 10.10.10.0/24. Okay, so now we have established the end-to-end connectivity between client to Fi and Fi to backend servers. Let's check. First, let's check here. Let me go to F5. Let me check whether it can 172.16.0.100. Okay, I'm checking whether it can reach its own self IP. Okay, 172.16.0.100 is the IP configured in the interface 1.2 for the external network. As like the same, I am trying to reach ping.10.10.10.100, the self IP we have configured for the interface 1.1, which we configured for the internal network. and this is the gateway for the servers. Okay, I could reach. Okay, so now I want to check the connectivity from client to FI and FI to server, right? Don't try to ping your client or your server from FI. You may not uh, get succeed, or you will not get the right response. So the right way to check the connectivity from your server to your FI is ping your self IP which you configured in your FI from your server. Okay, 10.10.10.100. Okay, so I could see it's reachable. The same time, if you try to ping this server from FI, you may not see the response. Okay, so it's always suggested to check the reachability. Try to ping your FI self IP address from your server, and if it's reachable, then your connectivity between your server and FI is fine. Okay, I can also show you from the other server, the server 2. Ping 10.10.10.100 is the self IP which we used in FI. It's reachable. So it says that the communication between the backend server to the FI is working good. I can show you the IP address configured here. If you see, it's 10.10.10.20 and the default gateway is 10.10.10.100, nothing but your self IP which we configured in the FI. As like the same, I can go to the client and I can check the reachability from client to the self IP address of the external network, 172.16.0.100. Yeah, we could see the response from the FI. So it shows that the end-to-end connectivity between the client to the FI and the FI and between the FI and the server is working good. So, but we may not able to ping from client to the server because still we need some things to do. We need to configure FI, right? We need to configure virtual server and so on to establish the connectivity between the actual user to the server. Okay, now we establish a connectivity between user to FI and FI to server. In the upcoming videos, let's configure a virtual server and we'll proceed further accordingly. Okay, step by step, let's understand. Thank you for watching the video. For more updates, please subscribe the channel, and for queries and feedback, please write to us. Thank you.